Hello everybody, welcome to this week's lesson. This week's topic is about diversity in teaching. In this week, we have 3 readings. The first one is going to be school experience of gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender youth. The second one is going to be teaching for social justice. The third one is going to be education in the multicultural society, our future's greatest challenge. So, right now, let's move on to the first article. First, let me introduce myself. Hi everybody, I'm Kaining. I'll be presenting the article School Experience of Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender Youth, which was written by Sarah E. Holmes and Sean Cahill. This is the longest article in the week, so please keep your spirit up and bear with me. This article was published in the year 2004. Compared to the 1900 scholarly articles, this is relatively new. It was mainly talk about the world's view of LGBT. This group is judged and mistreated during the old days, and now the new world is different. There was much harassment and bullying out there towards these people, and they should not have been treated like this. As time moves on, we have entered a time that people are getting more understanding of the terms of LGBTQ. The world is giving out more care and more love than it's used to. And we know even with the little support, they often display amazing strength. It was a huge impact on early education also. So this article was mainly divided into 6 topics. How many GLBT youths are there? GLBT youth of color. Education policy issues affecting GLBT students. Anti-GLBT harassment and violence in the nation's school. Children of GLBT parents in schools. And last, strength and resiliency of GLBT students. Well, it is difficult to determine exactly how many GLBT school-age youth there are in the United States, but as we can see on Facebook and the news, there are many of them. Knowing the fact is not enough. We as teachers should teach students to hold an open mind to accept the existence of all types of people. GLBT youth from racial and ethnic minority groups face unique challenges that reflect the multidimensionality of their life situations. Nearly half, which is 48% of GLBT youth of color, report verbal harassment based on both their sexual orientation and their race or ethnicity, according to Cahill and Cullen in 2001. As a future teacher, we should all learn that every choice that a person made is not there to be judged, but to support. A teacher should be there teaching all the students to nicely accept the fact that everyone can be different, even in the race or sexual orientations. But sometimes, even teachers make statements that create a hostile environment and appear to legitimize harassment and violence against GLBT students. There are a number of effective policy interventions that government officials can enact to improve school climate and safety. Schools that fail to provide a safe environment to GLBT students are also vulnerable to lawsuits that can incur financial liabilities. A teacher who is acting as a leader in every classroom in the world should be careful with what we said. In addition to GLBT-identified students in schools, the children of GLBT parents are also facing isolation, harassment, discrimination, resultant health, and educational risks. Their experiences may be both similar and different from those of GLBT-identified youth. These parents should also be supported. They are just trying to be good parents, and their sexual orientations should not be a factor to judge. Teachers should also be supportive of these parents because they are trying to be good parents without many resources of help. Many GLBT students are one another's role models and resources of support according to Boschnack and Brown in 2001, Gilliam in 2002, and Ginsburg in 1999. GLBT children are much stronger than you think. In this case, teachers can learn something from the students too. Why not? Learning in the classroom is always a two-way matter. As an old Chinese saying, no one is too old to learn. In conclusion, Youth are coming out easier as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. This is very brave and is also a big decision they have to make. But many school administrators and teachers are not keeping up with the cultural change. GLBT youth and children of gay parents are often vulnerable to harassment, violence, and even rape or murder. In schools across the United States, GLBT and supportive straight youth are organizing to make schools safer, more affirming place where GLBT students can develop socially in ways parallel to their heterosexual peers. In my opinion, people should not be grouped by who they like. All lives are just a simple word called human. Everyone with different lifestyles, different skin colors, different habits, different sexual orientations should all be treated equally. As a teacher, we are here to provide a safe learning space, not only physically, but also mentally. A teacher should make sure all students are included and welcomed in the classroom. Thank you for listening, and let's move on to the next article.
Hello, I am Riley Merritt. I will be presenting Teaching for Social Justice in Multicultural Urban Schools, Conceptualization and Classroom Implication by Jose's Lalas. In this article, he really explores urban schools and how the needs of English learner EL students are just simply not being met. Teachers are underprepared to solve these social issues, and the layout of schools is actually really inefficient for integrating the EL population. So what I want to focus on first is the struggles of English learner students in urban schools. 75% of teachers surveyed use the same textbook for their EL students as they would with their native speaking students. There are very limited changes in the classroom for the student, and they're really not given the help they need to thrive in the school. One of the most integral parts of developing a second language like English is speaking with the native speakers. This is not being done, however. 2/3 of EL students have 50% of their classmates as fellow English learners. English learners are rarely afforded their right to a fair and just education, and you can see that through these stats shown. They are not being integrated with the native speakers. They're not being allowed to develop a language, develop their thoughts and their knowledge because they can't communicate with other students in the school. How do we incite change is really one of the main points of Lala's article. He believes that reforms alone are not enough. Teachers really need to change their views. They need to advocate for social justice and look to solve language inequities or income inequities within their classroom to the best of their ability. Teachers need to be anti-oppressive and promote and show diversity in their school when they can. The administration should look to mix English learners and native speakers to foster a more inclusive environment within their schools and to help English learners develop their language a lot easier, because when speaking with the natives, it helps them pick up the local dialect. Teachers should be out front of social justice issues and help students properly confront them and show an aversion to violence. The fundamental definition of a public school and the role they play in society may need to change dramatically to incite these changes and move forward as a society. The last thing I want to focus on are the steps for teaching social justice. These are steps that Lalas feels one needs to go through before they can properly teach about social justice. First step is understanding oneself in relation to a group, and this is how your decisions influence and matter in relation to that group. Appreciating diversity, promoting equity, allocating resources and time within the classroom to better help disadvantaged students would be an example of that. Recognizing and diminishing inequities. Every teacher should try to remove all inequities and create a level playing field within their classroom. Equitable participation and allocation of resources. This falls in line with the last points and is how you divide your time and your resources among your students to get the most out of all of them. working together in a learning environment. Working in racially and socially diverse groups can help with problem solving and create a more connected community within your class. Critical thinking and reception. One needs to open their ideas up to criticism and discuss ideas with others outside of their social and racial group. Varied expectations and monitoring assessment. Teachers need to understand the needs and limits of their individual students and treat them accordingly. So that is all for my article.
Hello, my name is Grayce, and I read the Delpit article for this week's readings, Education in a Multicultural Society, Our Future's Greatest Challenge. First, I'm going to start with a quote from the end of the article from a Native Alaskan educator. In order to teach, I must know you. In this section of the chapter, Education in a Multicultural Society, Our Future's Greatest Challenge, expressing the problems as a society we face in public schools with a diverse group of children that come from many different cultural backgrounds, it's very important to recognize children as individuals, and as well as their own cultural background, as well as recognizing the importance of a student's perception and understanding. This allows teachers to also have a certain sense of control of their classroom. Delpit suggests that this student perception of teachers' intent is critical. With this understanding, the relationship between teacher to student will be very fluid and smooth between them, which will make students' and teachers' lives easier. One of these things that are children as individuals coming from diverse backgrounds, meaning addressing a student one way than the other student. They may not take to this information and direction in one way as the other child would. Thus, due to the way they were raised, and these differences so happen to come to fruition in the classroom. Also, for example, teachers address students. The article stated how the way a teacher addressed a situation, the African American student didn't respond to the liking of the teacher. But this was mainly due to the way African American students were talked to at home. It is very critical teachers understand the different cultural home life students have, thus that they will make a bigger impact on the students personally and make the relationship between them even closer. Another area to address from the chapter was stereotyping in the classroom. The article stated that Asian Americans are perceived to do well no matter the setting, which is not the case, and this leads to Asian American students not receiving the type of attention that they need in order to execute the task or work properly. Such as the little girl Kathy, which was an example in the reading, who is an Asian American student. She was one of the best students in the class, but she was left with her work and no one came to check on her because her work was very neat and executed, but it was not done correctly. Therefore, teachers shouldn't walk into the classroom with assumptions and stereotype views of their students. Study shows that African American girl students are rewarded for nurturing behavior, while white students are rewarded for academic success. Doing this may alter the performance of students. Rewarding for non-academic performance will encourage non-academic performance. Therefore, filling in a stereotype, this is also evidence why teachers need to make their classroom an equal environment for all students. Teachers have a major influence of their environment, which I don't think teachers realize how much impact they have on their students, even from the time the students walk in the classroom to the time the students leave. Keeping that positive attitude throughout the day, even in younger children, I feel is very important. Even when children leave the day, I remember being in school and when I would leave class and my teacher wasn't happy with the class as a whole, I'd be like, what's going on? What did we do? And when in all reality, it could have nothing to do with students. It could be personal issues. Teachers are gaining these behavior forms, these stereotype behavior forms from their training. They're presented with students' socioeconomic status first, and then strengths, presenting life situations. Teachers are gaining these behavior stereotype forms from their training. They're presented with students' socioeconomic status first, and then strengths are presented to them. But life situations introduced first leads to judgment and assumptions. Changes need to be made to these training programs of teachers to set them up for a better classroom success for all of their students, no matter what background they come from. Some of these things that could lead to teaching less instead of more are the teacher education that teachers are introduced to focuses on research that automatically links failure to socioeconomic status. Due to this introduction this way to teaching, they go into the classroom with automatic thoughts about students and academic performance, success, based off of what life they come from, without recognizing strengths first, which is not fair to the students. Therefore, recognizing their strengths they bring with them from home and balancing it with a challenging classroom in which they will be engaged will set them up for success. Creating this type of curricula will help students understand one another as well as a teacher understanding the students on a real-life level, understanding where they come from and how they can use this to teach them effectively, not only in the classroom but for when they grow up into full-functioning adults as part of society. Teaching them these skills at a base level will set them up for success in the future, not alone with teacher to student, but student to student. It's also very important to teach students correct behavior and how to treat others with kindness and respect and equality. A quote that I took from the article that really spoke to me and made me think of this in a different way was, "I don't see color, I only see children. What message does this statement send? That there is something wrong with being black or brown, that it should not be noticed? I would like to suggest if one does not see color, then one does not see children." I like how this quote executes itself by saying it is important to recognize color and a student's culture in the classroom. Therefore, as teachers, they can give them a proper approach to their education as well as building a relationship with students to make them feel comfortable, recognized, and a part of the classroom. If students feel comfortable enough with one another and their teacher, I feel like this will motivate them even more to want to do well in the classroom and be successful and even learn about their peers and their backgrounds, as long as everyone is represented equally and approached to as people and not of what they look like or their stereotype that is given to them. Addressing some of the problems of educating poor and culturally diverse students. Some of the reasons the article suggests problems occur for culturally and diverse students are, as I stated before, that teachers are exposed to the failure first rather than models of success for children of this area, which I didn't think, as an undergrad minor in education, that this would be a case, but I hope when it comes time for me getting certified that things have changed by then. But I feel as a personal mantra of going into being a teacher that I wouldn't look at it this way, and I'd give each student a chance as an individual to kind of show me who they are before I go by what the book says. Teachers tend to water down the curriculum for diverse students instead of challenging them, as well as the article stating that teachers foster the idea of students as clients of professional educators, meaning teachers need to connect more with the families and communities in which students come from. Delpit also suggests that teachers need to explore and evaluate their own beliefs and attitudes about non-white middle-class people and really see where they can come from and how they can help people not like themselves and people not of the middle-class white area of society. And I personally feel like connecting with the families in the community, it goes a long way with the student-to-teacher relation as well as the parent-to-teacher relation, because if teachers develop that relationship with their students and families, there will be a lot more fluidity in communication and understanding why the student is performing the way they are or why they are performing the way that they aren't. Some solutions for these would be suggested by Delpit are teachers having the initiative to learn about the surrounding communities themselves, not just going based off of their education that they received, using parents as resources and not looking at them as a nuisance or a burden, building relationships with parents to learn about behaviors or certain niches of students to help the teacher understand the student better and build the student-to-teacher relationship, as I stated before, and strive to teach diversely in the classroom, meaning bring everything full circle and hit every point in which a student would feel included no matter what background they come from, and not just surface-level teaching, which I feel I've experienced before. Surface-level teaching has not been helpful to me whatsoever. And a quote that I took from the article that really stood out to me: "If we are to successfully educate all our children, we must work to remove the blinders built of stereotypes, monocultural instructional methodologies, ignorance, social distance, biased research, and racism." If we were to follow this quote, I feel like future generations of society will be a lot more willing and open and fluid to working with one another. I know since I've been in school, I've seen a lot of differences having two younger siblings in the way that they carry out their daily school classes and their lives and how they interact with one another, so that's pretty cool to see.
Well, that's all for this week. We hope you enjoyed this video and find it helpful.